Welcome to Micro Biz Matters, a 7-day podcast in the lead up to Micro Biz Matters Day.
Hello and welcome back. Today is day 4 of Microbiz Matters, the 7-day podcast. Today we're going to talk about young enterprise. We'll talk a little bit more about some of the young business owners that will be at the event. And also one of the topics that keeps coming up in my conversations with Tony and Tina is success and what success means for you. So today I'll share some of that conversation with you, as well as the definitions of success that some of my other guests have provided. So please join us now as we continue the conversation with Tony and Tina, starting off with young enterprise.
And our big focus in Hull actually is youth enterprise, because the John Cracknell Youth Enterprise Bank and Hull's Youth Enterprise is amazing. They're just what they do, and what Charles Cracknell and Mike and the group have created is just fabulous. And so it's very much about the young people. There was a group of them came to Manchester in 2018. And so for us, it's getting some positive and real views, keeping it real for them, and helping them to understand some of the barriers and the hurdles that they might overcome, but actually not squashing their dreams in the same. Because the young people usually have like big dreams of owning their own business, whereas when you get to 50 odd, you're just grateful to still be doing it and actually to have an income. So, yeah. And
it's redefining that what success means, isn't it? The success doesn't have to be a huge, massive company. It can be enough money to make you happy and to give you the lifestyle that you want.
Yeah, absolutely, Deborah. And I mean, it's kind of like Tim Campbell, who was the first Apprentice winner, who supported us from the beginning as well. He and I, and Tina, we've all had parents that have really had their own business, but they're just actually trying to make ends meet. And we think that's great, so we are very different in that respect, because as Tina said, we're about making life better for micro-business owners, but the majority of micro-business owners are not, about winners and losers and achievements and all this. They actually just want to have a really good life with family and friends and doing the kind of things that they want to and make ends meet through their own business. And they love the freedom of being able to do that themselves, not having a boss telling them what to do, but just make it. That's a tremendous achievement, we think. We think it's absolutely fabulous that people can actually make ends meet in their own business, and that's just great.
I think the other thing that's become quite interesting over recent years as well is the number of micro business owners that have got more than one business. So I'm a perfect example. I've got 3. Tony, my eldest son is, he's got a plumbing, heating and tiling business, and he and my youngest son are just starting their own business together. And, that's fine. That's the other thing. That's absolutely fine. You don't have to, so many people in the corporate world are on this ladder of climb, and, we've got to climb the corporate ladder. Actually, it's okay to have different businesses, because that one's bringing me an income over there at the minute, and that one's not, and then that one's doing that, and that one's really growing, and that one's, and actually that's fine. Do what you've got to do to earn a living, and use your skills and your abilities and the things that you're passionate about to make it work.
And I think you're right. It is that very different mentality to the corporate world, which is the up, as opposed to I can actually go across and I can do something completely different that, just utilizes a different skill set that I've got, or a passion that I've got for something new. So, as you say, success looks different to everybody, and multiple businesses absolutely fine, or one business, whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the thing. It's what makes you happy.
In the conversations that I had with a number of other micro business owners, I asked them what success meant for them, because the reality is that we all have different definitions of success, and whatever makes us happy, as Tina and I have just spoken about, is really what's important. So first up is Jennifer Corcoran. Jennifer is from a company called My Super Connector, and Jennifer's answer, and bear with me as I read this. Jennifer has actually been ill and her voice wasn't up to a conversation. So instead, she has written down her responses for me. So I am reading it out on her behalf. So Jennifer says that success to her means being happy, healthy, and staying true to my core values of kindness, connection, collaboration, and community. I want to be able to enjoy my life, look after my health, spend time with my husband, friends, and family, and travel, and being a self-employed business owner allows me to do all of this while being true to myself. Thanks very much for taking the time to send that through to me, Jennifer. Next up is another guest of mine, Gemma Storey. And Gemma is the creative director for Infinity Creative. And we spoke earlier today about what she defines success as.
I would say for me personally is being known for a good reputation, someone who goes the extra mile. So as you and I were talking earlier, it's almost like you could have loads of graphic designers in one area, but they want to work with you because they know you and they like you. And that's kind of my definition of success, is someone goes, oh, go speak to Gemma, she'll do a good job for you, and she'll do, she'll put you first kind of thing, and she'll always go the extra mile. But obviously the other definition of success is money, and obviously you want to make it successful and kind of live off that and feel comfortable and enjoy it at the same time, so it doesn't feel like a job, but you can still live your life ultimately.
As you say, money comes into it because we need it to live.
Yes.
But it doesn't necessarily have to be the only definition for you.
And this is exactly another reason why I learned going freelance, is it's not always about money. When you're my last job, you've got a stable income, but I wasn't happy. I really was not happy. I was miserable. I used to dread getting up in the mornings and kind of facing the day. Whereas now it's like, right, who am I helping today? Oh, it's I don't know, Sophie the florist, or it's Sally the dog groomer. Like you get like, right, I'm helping that person, and that's exactly why I prefer my life now, because I've actually had more of a purpose.
Well, I think that comes through even in what you've just said there, is that you haven't said, who am I working for today? You said, who am I helping today? Which actually says a lot about your perspective on it.
Exactly. As you say, like, going back to the corporate side of things, it's like you get given a list of, right, you need to do this and this and this and tick it off by a certain time. Whereas when you're a creative person, to be told that you must be creative between a certain time, like 9 till 5, it's so limited, and actually it does the opposite. It makes you less creative. I found there were days where I was really struggling to muster like ideas for design, whereas now, like, if I want to take 10 minutes out of my day to kind of go for a walk, it inspires me. And this is what I'm finding. I go, oh, I can use that idea for my client. She'll like that. Like, I think of them all the time. And this is what I've noticed over the very few 9 months that I've been in business, is I'm always constantly thinking about my clients and thinking of how I can help them. And as you say, you're helping their business, you're invested in their time and them, essentially. You get to know them. And that's why I love it.
Herself is a young entrepreneur, I thought this was an ideal time to hear a little bit more about the young enterprise business owners who will be in the Guildhall itself and will be interviewed by Tony throughout the day. So back to Tony and Tina.
We have other guests.
Young entrepreneurs.
We have some great young entrepreneurs from that have been supported by the John Cracknell Youth Enterprise Bank and Hull's Youth Enterprise. They're just amazing. I mean, I think Hull does it like no other as a city, no other place to support their young people through enterprise. Now, that's not just business startup, that's the understanding of the 13 enterprise principles.
In schools and colleges.
They do it in the schools. And the Global Entrepreneurship Week for them is massive. And They have great events, but the young people are supported by real people, and we talked about real people previously, and they are coming along. Ben's bringing his snakes. I look forward to that, especially when they make it to the studio. I mean, I've worked with a few snakes, but not the type that Ben are bringing. So yeah, that's we've got Ben and his snakes. We have a lady joining us in the family business session, Sophie, and hers is less about it being a family business and more about her starting the business because of her family's needs. So both her and her young son have a skin condition, and seams on clothing irritate it. So she's created clothing. It's called Seams Impossible. So she's not got, so she's created a brand of clothing that doesn't have seams, so that it's great for her and her son. So I like the fact that that's a family business, but done in a different way. It's been done about the family, not with the family. Though who's to say if she keeps going and going, her young son won't get involved with it eventually. So yes, that's great. So, and then there's about 10 of them having stands in the main area in the Guildhall.
Yeah, I'll be interviewing each of them at their stands during the day, so they can actually explain what their business is and how they were really helped to start up. In other words, what or it helped to keep going in some cases, because a number of them, like Prehistoric Hull, have been going for quite a while now. And the support doesn't end once they've started their business. That's the wonderful thing about the community that they've built up in Hull. And you've got some real big entrepreneurs. There's a photography company, there's an educational media company, there's Anthony Chesworth, who's in Preston, who's the host of our 2020. There's these entrepreneurs with large companies actually helping all these youngsters, and they'll be there as well. So there's some really great stories there that I think should be quite inspiring for a lot of people. So I'll be interviewing them, and Tina will be actually having some of them in the different learning sessions as well. And so really, in some ways, obviously we've got some big names like I mentioned before, Michael Owen and Always Wear Red and various people like that. But I think the real inspirational stuff actually probably comes from people that you've never heard of, if you like, that have really from often quite disadvantaged backgrounds have actually managed to get a business up and going, and they're making ends meet out of it. And that's due to this fantastic community support. And so I think that's a real treat for everybody on Microbusiness Matters Day.
And Tony, when you do those interviews with the people at their stands, or the young entrepreneurs or young business people, will that be on Facebook Live?
That'll be on Facebook, okay. Yes, absolutely.
And just before we wrap up today's episode, one last definition of success, this time from Cathy Richardson of Diversity Yoga.
I come from a corporate background, so usually you start always by defining success with pound numbers, pound signs. And as I guess I got older and became more involved with hearts and minds, I realized that the money will happen anyway. It's about the level of satisfaction that my clients have for me. It's about, regardless of whether it's a large corporate business or a single individual, it's looking at them and seeing the smile on their face and knowing that they're walking out pain-free, knowing that they're walking to get a good night's sleep, knowing that the team are communicating effectively, knowing that the business has achieved its objectives. And if you do all that stuff, the perceived value of that is so much higher than any other measure for me. It's about achieving that level of personal satisfaction through the satisfaction of others, if that makes sense. It's about having a positive impact And sometimes that impact doesn't even have to be verbalized by the other party. It's about me knowing in my heart of hearts that I did my best and I've made a massive impact on someone. And sometimes the small things make the biggest impacts, which sometimes we forget when we work on our own, because we chase the big goal and we actually forget that it's the incremental things that achieve the biggest changes. And celebrating the small wins that happen every day, and not just celebrating it for me, but celebrating it with my clients, because it's a shared, we become a partnership. And it's a shared objective that's gained at the end. So you have to celebrate the nice little things that happen.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode of Day 4, Microbiz Matters, a 7-day podcast. The podcast has been brought to you by Tony Robinson, OBE, Tina Bowden, and Deborah Levitt. Produced by Deborah Levitt of Bridge Road Consultants, with artwork by Gemma Storey, who you heard from earlier in this episode, and music from Dinley Penny Music.
You've been listening to Deborah Levitt on Microbiz Matters, a 7-day podcast, part of Bridging Gaps, the business podcast.